I'm here with Evan Rosen and Dan Sweeney. They're running with the Movement Party, a brand new party. Thanks guys so much for coming on.
Thanks for having us. We're excited to be here.
Yeah, good to be here.
Yeah, so right off the bat, can you tell me about this new party that you've created?
Yeah, so a while ago, earlier this year, I decided that I wanted to run for CSG President. I had a lot of ideas that I wanted to see come to fruition and help make the school a better place. And I had my good friend Dan here who had some previous CSG experience, so I brought him on board.
Yep. Yeah, Evan's been a long-time friend of mine. This is something that I knew he wanted to do for a while. And while my position on the team was unclear up until a couple months ago, I was always going to be very involved in helping him get elected. And this ended up being the best way for me to do that.
So this past year has seen the success of what some might say is a populist uprising, or government outsiders coming in to make a big change. Aside from not being a part of CSG in the past, what makes your party platform so different and so new?
I think a big part of it is us being outsiders to CSG. So we're coming in with a lot of fresh ideas, a lot of new perspectives on certain issues, and we are really advocating for change is kind of the basis of our platform. We have a lot of different initiatives and ideas that people can check out on our website, movementumish.com. But basically, we want to see things changed on campus, and that's within education, health and wellness, diversity, and student body unity. A big thing you were talking about was, this change in the national government. We think it's important right now in our country to be able to come together as students and make a difference if we need to.
Is there a particular frustration that you've had with CSG in the past, which is why you guys are leading this campaign?
So I feel like one of the good combination of the traits that we have is the fact that we're students who have been very aware of the issues on campus. I've campaigned the last 2 years in the elections, and I've understood the concerns at the time, the main issues on the platform. Evan's been a very involved student in 3 different schools, so he's obviously well aware of the issues as well. But because we weren't in CSG, I think that outside perspective gives us sort of the ability to see, well, why do only 8,000 to 10,000 kids vote in the elections every year when it's open to upwards of 40,000, 45,000 students? I think it's just sort of that combination of understanding those two things that give us the ability to get students involved. Right now it seems like we're doing a good job of that, and we're excited, having a great time, and this has been a lot of fun so far.
Good. So as you previously mentioned, you guys do have a pretty extensive action plan online. And
it's long.
It's long.
It's a little dense.
I read the whole thing. It was great.
Thank you.
But what do each of you find is the most important plan of action that you guys have there? Is there a specific point on your platform that speaks mostly to you or to the students, and why is that?
I think personally, my kind of baby in my platform was the education reform part, just because that was really why I wanted to run for CSG in the first place. Being in different schools within the university and just being exposed to a lot of different classroom structures and ways that students learned. We have a lot of ideas about bringing back the social aspect of the classroom and giving a voice to the students in terms of their education, like our annual education forum initiative, where at the end of each year students get selected to go up in front of the faculty of their school and kind of voice their suggestions and what they've noticed throughout the year in terms of their learning and things that they can improve upon. Just stuff like that is really what I'm excited about personally, but I think the most important issue on our platform is our diversity and equality stuff, because that's really what I think is a major issue right now that students are upset with. And we care about the students. We want to focus on what they're focused on right now. So we want to make it a better place for everybody to come learn.
Right. I agree with the diversity and student engagement aspect of our platform. To me, in my 3 years here, that has been the concern that I've heard voiced most consistently. But the one that I'm most excited about is the mental health platform, or pillar of the platform. We have a different approach in the way that we want to attack it at the source and really figure out, okay, what are the things that are leading up to these students ending up at CAPS? You know, what are the little stress factors? And we have the 4 years campaign, which should enable students to have constant access to someone who not only understands their current, where they're at in their situation. You know, it's not different than an LSA advisor. It's more in depth in the way that this is someone who understands, which classes to take in order, things like that. We want to make financial advising more accessible. That's the biggest factor that students drop out from college. So those are. That's why I'm most excited about that, because I think our different approach will work.
Can you tell us more about the Mental Health Wake Up Initiative?
So I came up with that last year, and I actually ran with that on my LSA rep platform. And basically, sort of one of the issues that I think contributes to the continued growth of mental health, or really the lack of it sort of decreasing on campus, is the students that are sort of unaware and ignorant to the issues that students face. And it's not whether that's intentional or not. It could just be they haven't experienced the same thing. Maybe they've had a pretty lucky and smooth going 4 years and they didn't hit the same bumps. So they're, just not naturally as empathetic to some of these things. But my dream for the Mental Health Wake Up is a day where no student it's everybody is involved. It involves guest speakers coming in, real students stepping up and speaking in front of their classmates, trying to relate to them and tell their stories of, something that's happened to them. It could be anything from falling apart before an exam, or something real that happened, like losing someone close to you in college, or, these are all bumps that we face as Wolverines, and I think it's nice to just hear that every now and again, that, you're not alone, we're all up here together, and at the end of the day, it's a struggle, and we can unite over that. We can feel a sense of unity just from being Wolverines. I think a lot of the conversations that we have, we wouldn't be having if we really felt that unity just specifically from being Wolverines.
Yeah, I think, we're really trying to just, breed understanding and give students the tools to be able to help their friends when they're going through hard times.
Yeah.
What you guys are aiming at within your campaign is giving student central government back to the students.
Yes, we're bringing it back.
And giving students the opportunities to help us fix these issues, because we know that they care about them too.
Mm-hmm.
And do you feel, bringing it back to where we started, do you feel as though your message has been heard so far within the campaign?
Definitely. I think, a lot of people we've had a bunch of people reach out to us and say that they really like our platform, they really like what we're doing. And surprisingly, we've had overwhelming support for people who want a Chick-fil-A on campus, which we've included on our platform just at the bottom, because there's been overwhelming support for it. So we're excited to, help students in whatever aspects they want to improve on campus.
Okay, well, thank you guys so much.
Yeah.
Stick with us. We have more candidates from other parties. Thank you so much. So I'm here with Emerge's Party candidates, Nadine and Anushka. Thanks so much for staying with us, guys.
Thank
Happy
you
to
for
have
having
on.
us. Yeah.
Yeah, so let's jump right to it. Why the Emerge Party? How did each of you guys first get involved working with this party?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Do you want to start?
Yeah, so Anushka and I have known each other over the last few years through the nature of our work through Central Student Government. I think at the beginning of this year, both of us really didn't have much of an intention of running, but when we sat down for coffee one day, we figured, based off our interests and the nature of our relationship, we figured that we'd make a great team and we could put a great team together.
Yeah, and we both, I think I've yet to meet someone who cares about this university as much as Nadine and I do, and we figured that if we put our heads together and we were one team, we would do the best job that we could.
No, that's great to hear. So after that partnership took shape, what was kind of the process of building your platform? What did you guys find most important when you were, making your plan of action?
Yeah, so we met with a lot of students individually and in student organizations. We built our team around us. So we have a core team of people who help us run the party and develop platform and run communications. And so we had, I mean, probably over 100 people tell us what should be on our platform, and then sifting through those ideas, deciding what was most relevant to the student body. So one of the things on our platform is Wi-Fi on the diag, and I can't tell you how many students told us they wanted that. So we were like, okay, it should be on the platform.
Yeah, I think, yeah, absolutely. I mean, I agree with what Anushka said. I think just the nature of the way we put things together and moving forward, we're really excited about it. I think we put together a team that comes from a wide array of backgrounds and experiences, both inside and outside of Central Student Government. So I think that that's really important moving forward.
Yeah, so I mean, aside from Wi-Fi on the diag, what was kind of a common want that you found students felt?
There was a spike in crime off campus in certain areas, and I happen to live in that area. And I was talking to my roommates and some of my neighbors about how unsafe we felt walking home at night. And no one could really suggest a solution, but everyone kept saying how scary it was to go home late at night, especially girls who were walking home after going out or coming back from the library. And so one of the things that we had talked a lot about was how can we take a constructive approach to making students feel more safe on campus. And one of the things that we came up with was the PTS work study student driver program. And Nadine, if you want to talk about that.
Yeah, absolutely. So the idea is that it would be a work study opportunity for students who, so it would be a work study opportunity for students, and then you would basically feel much safer, at least through what we talked about with other students and ourselves, that sometimes it's scary to request an Uber at night or to request a Lyft. And the idea is that by working with students in your class, it could be someone from your economics class picking you up, taking you home, and it's just a safer environment for you to feel like you can get that ride home. But it's also about the idea of giving students a job. So it kind of benefits both aspects of that. So that's one of the things that we talked about. I think also in terms of what's on our platform is campus climate is very heavily discussed conversation right now, and a lot of the things that students are telling us about how they felt on campus in terms of accessibility and unity and working together, that's kind of a lot of the pivot points on our platform. It's making sure that we took those very pressing concerns from students and found ways that we could do both initiative and advocacy things centered around that idea.
Yeah. So I know that you both have experience in public policy and campaigning. I mean, for instance, you worked on Hillary Clinton's campaign, and I know that you've also worked with city council, correct? Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, what have you guys, in the past found most challenging when trying to engage voters and in, the case of Central Student Government, students?
Yeah.
The thing that I've found most challenging about getting people to get involved in student government or in government in general is giving people a reason to care. Oftentimes people don't think that Central Student Government or even American politics in general affects them. They think that they fly beneath the radar, and so their vote doesn't matter, their opinion doesn't matter, no one's listening to them. And so the thing that we've really tried to focus on is making sure people know that not only do the representatives in student government care about them and have their best interests in mind, but that everything we do affects them. We were talking about how, the walk from a blue bus stop to the law school, you can point at things along the way that CSG has done, but so few students know that, and so making sure that people know that we are invested in their best interests.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the nature of the work with City Council stems from the idea that right now we're in a unique opportunity where a lot of students who weren't active in civic engagement or politics or protesting are up on the rise. And we know that all across college campuses in the United States, students are becoming more invested in this and in these causes. And so that's kind of over the last year where the work with City Council has stemmed in, the idea of getting more students registered to vote, making sure that students know where their voting poll is, stuff like that. So it's just the idea of making sure that when students want to get involved, they know where and how to get involved.
Yeah. How do you feel as though you can educate them moving forward?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So one of the things that we'd like to do next year is host open town hall forums with administrators and with student groups who want to run series-specific issue meetings. So we've discussed having a DEI series where student orgs and administrators can come in and frame issues on campus like mental health problems or sexual assault prevention as issues of equity or diversity or inclusion to fall under the DEI umbrella. That draws a lot of crowds, and it makes sure that students are paying attention to important issues, but also understanding them in a nuanced lens in a way that it affects them. So that's one thing I'm excited about.
Yeah, absolutely. And in addition to town halls and open conversations with students, something that is really important is the social media presence and making sure that we're using our networks, both on social media and with the Michigan Daily, to make sure that the work that we're doing is transparent to students. And so a lot of times students talk about the transparency issue or what is central student government really doing. And we want to make sure that, one, we're bringing students to these conversations, but also that we're able to put out this like media presence to make sure that people are aware and up to date of what's going on.
No, that's great. And I know online you guys said that you want to take the opportunity to make changes while also maintaining the momentum of what's been happening the past few years. Can you, in more detail, tell us what's going on right now that you want to provide momentum for?
Yeah, absolutely.
Sure.
So I can start that. So right now I'm currently on the administration. I serve as the senior policy advisor, and we've done a lot of, I believe, incredible work this past year that I believe shouldn't just stop because it will take time to have these things come into effect. And so to name one thing in specific, the Leadership Engagement Scholarship. The Leadership Engagement Scholarship gives a scholarship to students who are engaged in non-paid leadership positions. A lot of times financial obstacles and barriers are an impediment to students who want to get involved and be active on campus, but they can't because they have to work long shifts. And that's something that is only at the beginning of its progression, and we really want to make sure that this is continuously advocated for and sustainably put in place because we want students to have access to something like the Leadership Engagement Scholarship. Another thing would be, over the past year, I've been working on affordable housing, and I think that that's something that I'd like to see continued work on next year because it's something that a lot of students are heated and want to talk about, but it hasn't really been like a pressing conversation. And so it's the idea that some of these advocacy initiatives are extremely long-term and they're not going to happen overnight, but we want to make sure that it's not just 8 months of work, but it's actually like continuing on if we take office.
Yeah, and I think one to tie in sort of to the last question you asked, after the email incident on campus in which hateful death threats were sent out to specific groups of students, the current administration, I thought, did a great job in keeping students up to date on all of the actions that they took. The student body president sent out an email in which he listed step by step everything that administrators did and that the student body representatives did in CSG so that students knew what was being done on their behalf. And I think that's the kind of transparency that we'd like to expand upon and maintain the momentum of moving forward.
Mm-hmm.
No, that's definitely great. Well, thank you guys so much for coming on.
Absolutely.
Stay tuned. We have another interview and later on a round table. We're back with Defend Affirmative Action Party candidates, Keisha and Lauren. Thank you guys so much for coming on today. Really appreciate it.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, so just to, get on going, I know that you've run with DAP Party before, but I would love to know how this partnership first occurred and how you guys decided to be running mates.
So I think what it is, Lauren and I are friends as well. We met through BAM. But we've also grown a friendship just beyond just being comrades. And I find that there's a real synergy between us. It's really because I feel like hearing Lauren makes me stronger when I'm, for example, at the debate, hearing what Lauren was saying and boldly putting forward the platform and whatnot. It always energizes me when we're really doing our best. And so because of that, I feel stronger. And it's we ended up running because, we were the ones who were willing to do it and willing to take that responsibility for this sort of platform and this sort of organization and organizing.
Yeah, but Keisha's awesome. Keisha's the sun to my Saturn or something. They always try to expand their horizons and their political perspective. They're always shooting for something better. They always try to treat other people well. And they always try to make their political perspective more sophisticated, not just focus on issues that are more immediate to them, but broader issues, so supposedly other people's issues. And it's very rare to find somebody like that. And I admired that immensely. It's a trait I hope to cultivate in myself. And that's how we roll. Yeah.
Good. So I know that you guys do have a very extensive platform. Is there any plan of action or point on your guys' platform that you feel is most important to yourself?
I would say that you know, a lot of the things on there are kind of intertwined, I think, which is one of the reasons why it became so extensive.
Yeah.
So, for example, like in the section where we talk about mental illness, you know, Lauren and I deal with a lot of like mental illness. I don't even know what other way to put it. But it's also the fact that that platform recognizes how many other things are part of that, like how many other things that are going on in somebody's life can exacerbate like the stress or the stress of being mentally ill. I think that honestly one of the biggest things on the platform for me, however, even saying that, is the part where we talk about building defense guards and community defense networks for immigrants in the community. You know, we have a mutual friend, Justin Chung, who was in a a couple of detention centers for 7 months straight. And we thought at the beginning that it was going to be a very simple fight, and it absolutely was not. He was in there for 7 months, and we finally got him out. And that sort of is part of what, but is not the only thing that pushes us to organize around making sure that undocumented people aren't detained, but even if they are detained, getting them out of detention. Because I don't want anybody to go through the pain that we felt, but also I want, you know, to help. And so one of the things, you know, that I'm doing personally is I've created a group with Jessica Brzezinski, who's a community member for Stop Trump Ann Arbor, and also the Ann Arbor IPSI Rapid Response Team. And through that, we have gotten their Yusuf Ajin, a father of 4 here in Ann Arbor. We got him out of detention and reunited with his family. It's something that we take very seriously. We connect with the people who are fighting for, and I think that that's just something that's really necessary right now, is that direct action that works and that can help people.
Yeah. Yeah, like, you know, we are already doing what our platform says, and we have been doing it for a long time. We just want to expand what we've been doing to a higher, larger level in the form of university policy. For instance, I know that undocumented people currently can get in-state tuition right now when they're applying for the university, but they have to apply to the university within 28 months. Otherwise, their in-state tuition, the possibility of having in-state tuition, will be revoked. And what about transfer students that are undocumented? You know, what about people that have crap going on in their lives and they don't feel like they're in a position to come to the university within 28 months? No other people have to experience that. Why do undocumented people have this, you know, little caveat thrown in their face, even though they might have resided in this state their entire lives?
Well, I mean, going off of that, I previously spoke with candidates about the same issue of undocumented undergrad students receiving in-state tuition and all the barriers for that. How do you feel you guys can personally take shape in implementing that for people who can come in, you know, after the 28 months, or graduate students or other students as well?
So I'll start and then I'll pass it. And we actually worked on multiple resolutions with CSG to help aid undocumented students here, including demanding that U of M may become a sanctuary campus, and that included expanding the then, what was it? Is it $450,000 or $750,000?
It was $450.
$450,000
scholarship
program for undocumented students here, making, you know, that larger, and also expanding it out to include graduate students as well. And so again, I guess I could reiterate what Lauren just said of the, you know, that we've been what we say we're going to do, we've been doing, and so, you know, part of our program is also talking about doing that, and also I don't know how to just say like doing it and being in, you know, conversation with the student body and putting that demand on the university and putting that demand on the administration that this is something that's necessary, and if you can make this first step, then you can make the further steps.
Yeah, we're of course it will have to depend on every proposal that we deliver to the university, such as getting rid of the 28-month limit, increasing scholarship funds and grants for undocumented people substantially, you know, the rapid response teams. We'd also like to check out some discrimination in the application process that works against low-income and people of color and undocumented students. We want to expand the amount of legal assistance for undocumented students or people with questionable documentation status, and for potential students. There is a clinic at the law school that's not very big. It's the only clinic on campus, but undocumented students, they need that free legal help in order to have a chance of staying at this university comfortably. We're going to expand all that. As for how we're actually going to do that practically, of course we can always pass resolutions in the CSG, but I think what we're also going to have to do is we're going to have to publicly present this platform, these demands to the administration, and if the administration does not give us what we want, we will shut down the school.
Yeah, so I know a common theme that I have heard is that a lot of students are not aware of all that CSG can do for them. In office, how would you guys like to educate students on, you know, the resources that they have through CSG, or all that CSG really does behind the scenes that they may not be aware of?
More open doors, I think, is one of the big things. For example, sometimes CSG has the schedule for the night printed out that people can take. Sometimes they don't. You know. Publicizing when meetings are happening, even if it's just resolutions committee and it isn't, you know, applicable to a lot of people who aren't doing resolutions, if they want to come and see that. But the other thing is, one of the big problems with, like, one of the reasons why CSG has historically, you know, not been recognized by the student body is because the students feel like they're not represented by the by CSG. Whether that's because, you know, I'm sure you saw the report that went out about the makeup of CSG, which was like mostly white, mostly $200,000 income or above students on, well, obviously, you know, house income. But point is, you know, not only is that affecting it, it's also, you know, backdoor deals with the administration or backdoor meetings with the administration. Instead of having those, you can have those meetings, just have them in public. Yeah. Or listening to the demands of the student body and saying to them, okay, yes, I see what you're saying and we need to work on that and we need to do it, instead of saying, well, I don't know. Because, okay, we have this ambitious platform for a reason, because these are the things that we want to achieve. And we have to put out that those are the things that we want to achieve in order to achieve them. And I think it really, like, CSG has a bad habit, and people who run for CSG have a bad habit of, you know, shooting their own selves in the foot by aiming really low at things that they know can be easily passed. Those things are not going to have most of the time are not going to, you don't have to struggle for them. You don't have to fight for them, and they're not going to have as large of an impact on people. I liked Lauren's point about possibly having to shut down the school, because back in the 70s, the Black Action Movement actually led a student strike, shut down the school for 3 weeks on the demands of increasing minority enrollment. Or even, for example, we have present examples with Students for Justice who, you know, occupied the union on a set of demands. And these are things that, you know, you have to actually, like, struggle and fight to receive.
And so our ambitious plan that connects multiple forms of injustice on this campus, increased corporatization, lack of minority enrollment, lack of undocumented students, you know, Islamophobia, gender binaries. We connect all of those levels of oppression in our platform. What we want to do is so much, we don't let people tell us what CSG is about, what CSG's capabilities are. We define CSG through our movement and through our actions. And hopefully CSG can be a student union that represents all students and is a center of political organizing that can connect all the different constituencies and groups of disempowered students on this campus so that they can effectively fight against the administration and make the administration create a truly public university. So that's basically our vision for CSG.
Well, I wish you guys best of luck. Unfortunately, we're out of time. Stick with us. We have a roundtable discussion with our presidential candidates up next. I'm lucky enough to be sitting with all of the presidential candidates, all but one. Better Than the Rest Party could not be here today. But we have everyone else, and how this brief roundtable is going to go is each candidate will have 90 seconds to respond best to their ability after everyone speaks. If need be, each will also have 30 seconds. Each of your guys' parties have initiatives that touch on increasing service opportunities for students. Can you tell me about your party's initiative and what makes it different from previous initiatives that are aimed to increase student service and community engagement?
So the thing on our platform for Emerge is called the Community Service Connector Program, and we see central student government as a hub through which students can get involved in community service on campus, focusing specifically on student organizations on campus. So there are incredible organizations on campus like Circle K, Dance Marathon, and smaller organizations like the Michigan Refugee Assistance Program that all do really incredible community service work, and we want to make sure that freshmen who come to the university in the first semester of their fall freshman year know right away what student orgs they can get involved in to be a part of community service on campus and in the greater Ann Arbor area as well. In the past, CSG has focused on connecting students to university offices like the Ginsberg Center or like the Multi-Ethnic Student Affairs Office in an effort to facilitate them to community service opportunities. And Emerge wants to really focus on connecting students to other student leaders, other student organizations who are already doing the work.
One of the things about service work on this campus is actually recognizing what the service work stands for and why we need to do it, I think. For example, creating a community defense guard like we talk about wouldn't be considered service work. However, Detroit is regularly treated as if it is an entire city that is in need of, or is treated as if it is a place in desperate need of help, whereas that help is not actually analyzed for what it is. For example, through stamps, we also have to do service work. I would say something that DAP would like to do is not only expand and support the service groups that are already on campus, but also critically analyze what sort of service we're doing, what sort of service work we're doing, and what we're calling service work and what we're not calling service work. And I think another thing that I would add to that is that on our plan, we would also like to support graduate students and faculty in their service work and faculty that's...
I'm so sorry, I have to cut you off.
I think the school does a lot of great things in terms of service work that the students can get involved with. I think the Movement Party does a great way of working in some new things into the different pillars on our platform. Under our student body unity, we have an initiative for a campus-wide Thanksgiving food drive that we're really excited about, where it'll bring the entire campus together to compete for this event and partner with local food kitchens, different organizations on campus to help out a good cause. And we also have things under our diversity and equality pillar, such as our Send the Elevator initiative And another initiative where it becomes a requirement for students in the School of Education to spend time during their schooling teaching classes in surrounding communities outside of the University of Michigan, lower socioeconomic communities, and building that partnership between the University of Michigan and those communities, and also doing some good at the same time. So we're really excited about that.
Great, thank you. And would any candidates like to rebuttal?
Oh.
No? Moving on to the next question. Keisha, you're going to begin with this one. Ann Arbor is historically a city that will stand up and engage in public debates and marches. In recent years, do you feel as though student voices have been heard by the central student government?
I would say that actually in my 3 years of, going to central student government meetings, partaking in the politics and the political affairs that are going on there, central student government has gotten better in the recent years in terms of engaging with important issues. For example, something that I talked to you about during our interview was that through BAM, I was one of the people who brought forward a resolution to CSG about making the university a sanctuary campus, and also about demanding that Obama pardon DACA recipients before he left office. And I think I can honestly say that years ago, those things would not have passed, no matter the fact that we put a lot of work into it, a lot of effort into it. However, there's always, always, always room for improvement. And one of the things that I will stress is that the reason that these CSG is doing better is because we have been pressuring them, and other organizations have been pressuring them, and other student groups and student leaders have been pressuring them into doing what is right. And I think that what we see is, the reason why there's still such a low interest in CSG on campus.
I apologize, I have to cut you off again, Keisha. Evan, would you like to start as well?
Yeah, I think I definitely agree with Keisha in the fact that CSG has gotten better in recent years about this thing, and what it stems from is students speaking up and voicing their opinions and people pressuring them to do so. And even though they have improved, I think there's still a lot of room to go to where we should be. And that was one of the biggest things I've noticed talking to students around campus is they feel there is a significant detachment from CSG, and they don't feel involved in the things that they want to be involved in. And that's really what we want to do with our campaign, is we want to give CSG back to the students and make sure that everyone knows what CSG is and everybody knows how to get involved, and really give them a voice to not just pressure them when they feel that certain issues should be talked about, but to always be voicing their opinions and always be giving feedback.
Thank you. Whenever you're ready.
Yeah, and I definitely echo the sentiment that in recent years, central student government has gotten a lot better about listening carefully to what students prioritize and what they want, and being responsive to that. But to the point that Evan is making, that students don't feel that they have ownership of CSG, or they don't feel a part of it, and that the movement would like to fix that. I think that's easier said than done, especially when you're entering CSG with no experience. One thing that Nadine and I are looking forward to being able to do is continuing to amplify students' individual voices as leadership of CSG. One of the best ways to do that is to make sure that the representatives who represent students in the assembly and in the commissions of the central student government, that they come from very different pockets of campus. They come from different communities, different backgrounds, different experiences on campus and off campus. And I think Emerge does the best job of pulling students from very, very different walks of life and different experiences on campus to make sure that in the next year, hopefully, the CSG can be even more responsive to different student concerns across campus.
Thank you. Would anyone like to take 30 seconds?
I would actually. Just to say that one of the reasons why students feel, have no connection to CSG is because it's time for CSG to take ownership of the power that they have and to actually utilize it. And it's time for CSG to become something unlike anything that we've seen in its history, which is an actual governing body that could work almost as a union and with bargaining power with the administration instead of only, I'll end there.
Right on time with 30 seconds. Does anyone else like to add anything?
I'd like to add that, I think the Movement Party is in a really unique position to bring an outside experience or perspective into central student government. And I think when people vote for who they want to be president and vice president, that we are by far the most qualified to kind of bring in this new wave of change. And I'm really excited to do that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd actually like to make a quick rebuttal as well.
30 seconds.
I think that the willingness to make change is admirable, and Nadine and I definitely seek to do that, as does everyone else in Emerge, but it's hard to hit the ground running when you will spend the first 6 months learning how the organization and the administrators' relationships work, which is why having previous CSG experience is incredibly important, and it's why Nadine and I are actually the most qualified.
Okay. Well, we're going to move on. This is our third and final question due to time restraints, and it's a little different of a topic, so I'm going to begin. Back in February, racist and anti-Semitic emails were sent to university engineering and computer science students. As campus leaders, how do you feel about the current climate of our campus, and how do you feel our campus administrators responded? Do you feel as though enough is being done to combat the hatred that students have been dealing with? I believe you're starting.
Yeah, it's a tough situation because right now there is no clear right way to respond. And I think that's the trouble that the administration is running into. I don't think they're doing enough. I think that's clearly felt by the students around campus, is that the response to those hateful emails was not meeting their expectations. And I think the Movement Party has a lot of things on our platform that we can work with to address those concerns. One being moving the race and ethnicity requirement up to the students' first year here on campus. We have a writing requirement that everybody must pass. I think it's integral to being a student here to be educated on those topics, so that we have an understanding and a welcoming student body, so that we don't run into these problems in the first place, hopefully. And I think it's a lot of being proactive with those things instead of reactive and attacking the source, so that we don't have to sit here and say, now what do we do now that these problems are arising?
Thank you.
Yeah.
Next.
I am definitely sympathetic to the position that administrators and university officials are in when something like death threats in an email come out. It's a difficult situation to be in, but I will say that I was disappointed in the response. I think students deserve to have more transparency about what administrators are doing, especially when the issue at hand is death threats against two specific groups of students on campus. One thing that Emerge would like to see next year is, under the DEI umbrella, having a hate instance or hate crime response oversight committee to the administrative level that is made by and for students, so that if and when an incident like these emails happen, students can provide input to the university on what they would like to see in a response, both in the moment and moving forward for future events.
I think, well, let's begin with the administration's response and the reason why it was so useless. And I will call it useless. When students marched to Schlissel's house, and President Schlissel came out and asked, what do you want us to do? What can we do to help? It falls flat when, before that, when Islamophobic chalking happened on the diag, University spokesperson Rick Fitzgerald said that Mother Nature took care of it, when it was actually Muslim students on campus who came out and erased it themselves. When racist and fascist flyers went up, the university said that there was nothing that they could do about it because they were in public posting places and that it was free speech. And so students had to pull it down. So when the university has a history of ignoring these problems, their words will fall flat, especially when they're only words. Now, something that I like about what Lauren said earlier is that DAP and BAM, we've been doing what we say on our platform that we would like to do, we have been doing. And what is necessary is a real movement, a real political organization. The new civil rights and immigrant rights movement is what is necessary, and it's time to stop being afraid of a collection of assembly and political organizing together. And that's what we need to bring to CSG.
Thank you. Would anyone like to rebuttal for 30 seconds?
I just say I would agree. I think we need a movement.
Understandable. Well, we are unfortunately out of time. I can't thank you guys enough for coming out today. Get out your vote. You can do it online, and I wish you all best of luck.